Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how I made this Mario puppet out of a few sheets of paper. Welcome along, my name is Ben Stanley and I design and create working replicas of beloved Muppets, puppets, characters and creatures. So if paper crafts your thing, I'd really appreciate it if you liked this video. So, you may or may not know that I've already made a Sonic the Hedgehog puppet video, so I thought it was time to give Mario a chance as well. It's me, Mario! Hey Mario, how you doing? Do you know what? I'm really happy with the way this puppet turned out. He's got lots of articulation, so you know he can sit down, we can kick, the arms move around, and he's got quite a lot of articulation in the elbows there as well. I'm excited to see how you made a me. Do you know what? So am I. Should we just get into it? Okie dokie, let's go. This is how to make a me, Mario. So Mario is a 13 sheet paper puppet, and I've used 160 GSM thickness paper, so closer to card. Anything much thinner and it's not going to have enough strength, and anything thicker and it won't be flexible enough. The paper on the face, however, is thinner at 100 GSM as it needs more flexibility to operate the mouth. So the first thing we're going to do is add the eyes and one ear to the face. Next we glue the chin flap. Then the end of the jaw is glued in and that feeds in underneath the moustache and up into the sideburns. The jaw is then glued to the back, and then we glue down the edges of the moustache, the edge of the hair and the sideburns too, which I somehow didn't film. And then the second ear is glued on. And then we're onto the teeth, and I got some perhaps understandable stick for the teeth on my Sonic puppet, but what the heck, I'm doubling down here. And here we sort of measure 2.8 centimetres from the tip of the moustache, and that's where the centre point of the teeth gets glued in for them to sit just in the right place in the mouth. Now this sheet is concertina folded and glued into the middle from both ends to go around the top of the forehead to give it shape and stability. On the central section of the strip, I've marked a couple of guidelines which need to align with the sides of the face sections, so you glue the length of the strip on the paper either side of those lines, and when it's glued in that's going to give the top of the head a nice rounded shape. This is going to be the tube mechanism by which you open and close the mouth. I've made it white as its folded edge will sit where Mario's bottom row of teeth would be, but if you don't want to have any sense of the bottom teeth being there, you can just glue it a bit further back behind the red inner mouth section that we're going to create next. Talking of which, the section just above the folded line here is where you'll glue those bits together shortly. Once got them folded, this inner mouth section is glued, where I just mentioned before, above the fold of the white tube section. And then the flattened flap section of that will be glued snugly into the inner side of the chin section of the face. And these two little side red sections you can see in the mouth there, they just need a bit of glue at the back, and then they can be pushed into place. And then the very top of the mouth section is going to be glued in. So that means you won't be able to see any of the mechanism of how the mouth opens and closes through the mouth. And then you can see that that tube will open and close the mouth. And then we're going to create the lower chin section with some simple folding and gluing. And this is the section that the rest of the body is going to sort of hang from via a paper fastener, so it needs to be folded over to make it quite strong. And then once that's all done, you're going to curve it around, glue the ends on the outside and place it folded up onto the inside of the head, gluing the ends onto the circular band with the pointed central tip at the lower end sliding in underneath the finger tube section. This next section will be the hand support. The sheet is concertinaed, glued and then folded over. And again, we're folding this over quite a lot to give it as much strength as possible because this is going to take the weight of the puppet. And then it's going to glue onto the lower chin section, just below the level of the white band. Next up the nose, and each of these little folding sections will need gluing front and back and then folding in. And just a reminder here that it's really important to pre-score any folding lines to get the best accuracy that you can. And then these little flaps at the ends are glued and crossed over each other. And the reason we're overlapping these is that's going to actually help with the three-dimensionality of the nose. And then those 4 flaps are glued together as best you can, creating a slight curved area, which in turn is then glued and placed onto the front of the face. And obviously that's going to take longer to glue on than I'm showing here. Next, the centre of the handle is pushed down, as you can see there, and to operate the mouth, the middle finger fits into the tube, the 2 fingers either side slide over the top of the band, and then the thumb and the little finger slot underneath the handle, and this will allow you to open and close the mouth. And then we're on to Mario's cap, and obviously we put the M on there, and the rest of this is really just gluing and then just folding the flaps against the guidelines that are there on the template. And it's probably worth reminding you, as I tried to in each video here, that I'm never showing how long it actually takes to glue these. Really, for the bonding process to happen, you want to be holding these flaps together for, anywhere between 30 seconds and a couple of minutes. So it will always take much longer than I'm showing here. And we'll start from the front and work our way to the back, and then we're gluing that last little section in there. And then we fold over these little flaps at the bottom, and we've got the main shape of the cap there. Obviously we're missing the visor, which is what we'll do next. And this is the visor, and we're just going to glue those flaps and put them into place, hold them in, and we've got the cap. And then I've got this little bit of extra paper, not technically in the template, but just cut out, glued on the inside of the head there, glue around the top of the head, and then the cap just glues into place. And next we're onto the body, and here we've got a couple of pieces that need to be glued together to make the full template that we need. Now you'll notice the yellow buttons there, and I somehow forgot to film cutting those out, but basically that was just from a yellow post-it note. So once we've added these sections together, we're going to start folding and gluing, and these folds will help to create the three-dimensionality of the body, and we need to glue on both sides of the flap here before we glue it together. And the direction that you fold them here is quite important, so you need to make sure that you're gluing it and folding it in the right way. And interestingly enough, actually, this body shape was actually derived from the shaping of the head, so the template was almost like a copy of that, and then it sort of evolved from there. Then we've got this final flap here, which we just need to kind of tease in, and then we're going to glue it down, and then you've got the front of the body there. So next we're going to add on the shoulder area, and here we're just going to glue this flap in place and then cut a little bit, which will help us with the gluing to the rest of the body in a second. And we glue all the way around the edge of the dungarees there, and then this sort of goes in. And I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit fiddly here to put this in. We do the same on the other side again, gluing on the dungaree side, and then we're just adding this extra little bit for the neck. And then we're on to Mario's boots, and really this is just quite a lot of gluing and then folding. And as we glue and fold, the shape of the shoe comes into play. And then we're onto the legs, and I'm not going to show you every single fold, but I will spend a moment on these curved folds, which you need to crease nice and gently. And when you fold each curve like this, try and have the paper as flat as possible for each one, whichever way you're folding. And these particular curves are going to be the back of the knee joint, which will allow a bit more flexibility in the leg. And we glue these flaps together each side, and then here I'm using a letter opener just to get behind it for an extra bit of purchase to hold the paper together as it bonds. And then we're going to create a concave shape for the eventual joint, and you can see here there's a little bit of flexibility of the leg as well. Then we're going to attach the boot to the leg, so we glue the bottom half of the flap to the inside top of the boot and the top half above the fold and to the outside top of the boot. Then we glue down either side of the leg and the boot slides in, and then using a letter opener again, I'm giving myself something to push against while the glue bonds. To attach the leg to the body, we're going to use a little paper fastener with some extra paper used as a sort of as a washer, which goes through the body hip joint and then on through the concaved section of the leg, and then we flatten the ends of the paper fasteners over, but you don't want to do that too tight because you want the leg to be able to move around. And then we're going to glue all of these flaps and then slide them into place opposite each other, and they should fit quite snugly. And then we use a ruler behind the gluing point to help add pressure to the bonding process. And it's exactly the same on the other side, a paper fastener pushed through the hip joint area from the inside and then pushed through the middle of the concave section, and then the glued flaps sliding into place. Next up, the arms, and again I'm not going to show you every fold, but it's just worth showing a few of those curved folds to give you a sense of the easiest way of folding them, and in this case they're going to make the elbow creases. Similar to the leg, we glue along the line and then we create this cylindrical shape for the arm, and then at the top of that we're going to create this concave shape by gluing the flap in, and that's going to go into the shoulder joint in a bit. And then we need to glue these flaps together, but because I've put the markings on the inside rather than the outside, it is a little bit more difficult to see where they align together. And we've got a bit of flex there, as you can see, for the elbow joint, and I'm going to keep that end open for now. And then it's onto the hands, and it's just a case of gluing these pre-cut flaps that are at the top end of the design, kind of where the fingers are, and each in exactly the same way until about half of them are glued, and then you're going to glue the two ends together, and then you're going to keep going till you finish the top. And then these discs are cut out at the edges and glued in. Then we're going to continue gluing the flaps on the other side here, and again with these flaps what I tend to do is when I'm cutting them I cut just to the side of the black lines so that when they're folded in the black line's kind of hidden. And then we're just going to cut all the way around about half a centimetre in, and then we're just going to tease out these little flaps that we're creating, and this is going to be where we're going to wrap around what will effectively be the wrist. So we're just going to fold these sections over and then wrap it around. We'll then glue that into place, glue all the way around the inside, and then that's just going to sit on top, and again we're just going to glue that in to those tabs that we created. And then we glue the arm into the hand, making sure that the thumb is in the right place. And then exactly as with the legs, we put a paper fastener through from the inside, in this case through the shoulder joint, and again we're not going to close the fastener too tight so that we can get some good shoulder movement with the arm. And then we're going to glue on both sides, and we're going to hold it in place using a letter opener here to help apply the pressure from both sides. And the second arm is added in the same way. The head is then added with the final paper fastener, which goes through the bottom of the lower chin section, through the body and fastens on the inside. Our last section is to glue the back of the body up. We start gluing at the trouser seam, and then this flap here is going to fold back. And then we're going to use the flaps on the red shoulder sections to glue the back of the dungarees down. And this is a bit fiddly and it takes a bit of time, but with some patience you can get that all neatly down, and then you just kind of hold it in place once it's been glued. And then finally these two long flaps are joined together and used to create a loop for you to put your finger in at the back to help articulate the body movement. And there's Mario in all his glory. So there you have it, a Mario hand puppet made out of a few sheets of paper. Thank you! That's so nice! Well, thank you. And thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, you might want to check out my Sonic the Hedgehog video, which you can find over here. Until next time, bye bye. Game over!